Hello, denizens of the internet. This is Kira Una coming to you today with another project. Today, we're going to do something a little bit more utilitarian. You know those wheel carts that people take grocery shopping with them that have the bag on top, like a wire frame? Well, I have a bag that needs replacing, so we're going to take a pattern off of that bag and I will show you how to remake a cart bag. So let's get into it. Okay, so here we have my travel bag that I take with me to and from school, and it has seen better days. There was a giant gash like right across here that I had to fix. The other problem is that the drawstring is starting to fray, and I've patched it a few times, but this is just not doing the job. There's a lot of wear and tear. This is all plastic. At least the Velcro still holds to keep the bag in place, but the pouch on the inside was made out of such a cheap plastic that it just fell apart. So I just essentially safety pinned the whole thing closed. So I need to take this off of the frame and figure out how big each of these pieces are. So that'll take me a couple of minutes to do, and I will get into just making a replica of this bag. Alright, so this is what we're dealing with here. So let me take all of these off so I can show you exactly how craptastic the plastic on the inside of this is. Now my ultimate plan is to salvage the hardware, being the zipper and the Velcro if I can, and the drawstring tie. But I'm gonna make this out of something a little different, I think. And I might also add a high visibility thread of something. I do have some high vis yarn with essentially it's a yellow, bright neon yellow yarn. Not ideally my favorite color, but I believe I still have some of that left. So I might crochet like a strip of it, but this material has a high visibility reflective thread in it. So if I'm traveling at night, it'll be seen by cars. I don't know how well you can see this, but this is like, you know, that $1.99 grocery bag sort of material that you can find, or sometimes when they give a promotional one away for free. That's this kind of material, and it's ripped right through. Yeah, not the best construction. Here, oh yeah, there we go. Now you can see how it's shredded. So I think my plan of attack on this is remove all the parts, cut it out as close to the seams as possible, and I'm going to see, I have some twill cotton in my stash. I had planned on using it to make stays, but I think I might do something else different with that. Instead, I'll make a bag. If all else fails, I do have a crap ton of muslin, so I can always make a double layered muslin bag out of that as well. Now I'm actually tempted to go with the muslin and beeswax it somehow. Let me tear this apart and get started on that. Okay, so we're going to use my less impressive scissors to take this all apart, and we're going to use this as my sewing template. We're going to give ourselves 1/2 inch seam allowance for any areas that we're going to be needing to do add-ons, cutting in, and all that sort of thing. I'm not going to add piping. I could add piping if I really wanted to as a decorative measure. I do have some pre-cut bias strips that I could do for that. I'll also have to add some sort of waterproofing to all of this because this is going to be trucked around. So I need to figure something out for that. I don't know if I'm going to beeswax it or something else. Yeah, this is just... See how easy that tore? Oh my god, that's terrible. And the zipper wasn't even put on very well. Like, look how wide that stitch is, and look how wonky this is. The follies of cheap, fast fashion bags. I would also like to add this was given to me, but I don't think that my friend who gave this to me paid that much for it. And I mean, I should not be able to do that. This is just garbage. What to look for when you're looking for luggage? Plastic. It's all plastic. There's like a reinforcing strip here that just feels like some sort of woven canvas. And this casing here, about an inch wide. I know some of this may be cut off of camera. I apologize in advance. Now let's get this out of here. See, that was just overlapped with this cheap ribbon. This ribbon wasn't even finished on the inside. Yep, raw edges, like I suspected. This I'll keep as a reinforcing piece. This is just plastic covered cardboard. I might recover this with something. Also, instead of this being like this shouldn't normally be curved, but because this piece is all one strip, I might have to curve it whether I like it or not. The side strip, which is just one long strip. I was thinking of using this as the outside, putting something else on the inside, like a reinforcing layer of cotton or twill or something, just to spruce it up a little bit, because this is pretty, and I got it from Dollarama of all places a couple of years ago. I picked it up because it was fairly cheap, and it's a 50% cotton, 50% polyester, which isn't terrible. The only thing is it's a bit of a loose weave. I don't know how well you can see this, but it's got a nice sort of decorative element to it. And I bet you because it's got a little bit of polyester in it, it'll be a little bit more waterproof. So any water that gets on the front of the bag will also help to slough it off a little bit. But if I go in and waterproof this with like a beeswax or something, that may do. I have beeswax in the apartment that I can probably just scrape over top of the whole thing and then steam it into the cloth. I found this in my stash too. There's some, maybe enough to make the bag, or at least the part of the base, because I want to use up fabrics that I don't really need. And this has been sitting in my stash for a while. It is a twill weave, but I don't know what the fiber content is, so I may have to do, it feels plasticky to some degree, but I could be wrong. Maybe it's just coated. It's an offcut from somewhere. I might use this because it does feel, it's not stretchy, it feels fairly sturdy, so that's something else I might use. This mystery twill cotton. It is a cotton derivative. I think it's like a cotton polyester, which I think will be fine for what we're doing. Because it's going to get dragged through the muck and the rain and things. I don't want to use my good twill weave that I might need it for later, so I'm going to use what's left of this first. Let's see what I can squeeze on. Now I'm going to fold this in half. I'm going to mark this directly onto the fabric using the pieces that I just cut up, and I'm not going to worry about wrinkling. I mean, it's a bag. I'm not gonna, and it's gonna be carrying a bunch of school stuff, so I'm not going to worry too much about that. And I'm going to mark directly onto the fabric using the Frixion markers, because I know that they'll show up. I'm not worried if it shows up again, if it gets cold. So let's start with this. This is the front. The back is about the same size. Let me just double check. Yeah, back is about the same size. I will probably make this at the top ever so slightly wider, so that's fine. I'll need 2 layers of this, and then I'm probably going to see how much I have of this to do 2 layers front and back. Now, if you want a more on the street of grainness, don't cut it on your ironing board. This is the flattest surface that I have that's easier to work with, so that's kind of what I'm rolling with right now. I will probably have to double trace my sewing lines just so I know where I'm sewing, because I'm going to be using my hand crank singer to sew this with, because it will have the power, because it's hand crank, to go through the amount of layers I possibly might have with this. Here's a bit of an easier trick. If you know that you're working with something that's symmetrical, you can fold the grain line, fold your fabric on the grain line in half so that you've got the 2 layers showing, and then fold it in half again, but fold your pattern piece in half. This is not going to be perfect, but it's going to be good enough because, like I said, it's just the bag, and we're going to be cutting 2. So where your fold line is here is where you put the center of your bag, and because we're cutting a front and a back, we'll have a front, and because it's doubled, we'll have a back to make straight lines a little easier. And I'm making the top a little wider just to make it easier to carry things. And it really won't matter which side I use is good, or right side or wrong side, because again, this isn't going to be perfect, it's just going to be functional. Now, we're going to save this because this is what we're going to need as the casing that will go around for the tie. So we're going to go with something a little bit more heavy duty. We'll set this aside for now. Now, the longest part is going to be the sides. Do I have enough length? Possibly not. So I might have to cobble the front or the sides together. We still need to make one of these and one of these. So we'll keep these and one of these. I'm thinking what I'll do is I'll double up this. This is the side panel piece, but if I do a double layer, that will give it a bit of strength, because I probably won't have enough of this for the sides.
next day.
I also traced out the top piece. I'm gonna sew this as narrow of a hem here as possible to give it the most width. But I also need to sit here and copy some of the pieces out of this. So let's see. I go a lot of things by sight, so I need to see how much I actually have and how wide it is, if it's wide enough. Okay, that's enough for the top. Now, because I also have most of the sewing lines cut, like everything cut, traced out, I will be able to just sort of use the one side as the sewing seam line. I am debating on adding some sort of interlining in this to stiffen it a little bit. And I keep a tub of all my scraps specifically for this reason. Some of these are actually samples from my sewing classes. I don't know how well you'll be able to see this, but this one is for darts. And there's registration punch marks here on the fabric. It's like ever so slightly not big enough. Darn it. I could just like cut this open and use this as an interlining, I suppose. Could also probably use one of the bigger panels. Actually, maybe I will do that. Because it'll add a little bit of like marginal waterproofing. Yeah, that'll work. Okay. See, this is one of the things where you buy what you pay for. This isn't even fully... So, this is probably one of the reasons why you shouldn't buy a bolt at Dollarama. This is not a continuous piece of fabric. And it's printed badly. Because there's print errors and... I mean... For little projects, I'm sure it's fine. It will give it a little bit of whimsy, I guess. So, okay. Maybe I'll use that piece for the pocket. Just trying to line it up so I can cut this out. I was right about not having enough for the sides, but there is certainly enough for the front and back. Just so that you're aware, I have folded it. I'm gonna put this on the fold to cut it out. And I'm just gonna cut out this shape here. I think this will shape up to be a really nice bag. This is the part of the bag that is going to be going over the side back. Like this is essentially where the poles of the wheelie cart go. It's also a structural thing to hold it onto the wheelie cart so that the whole thing stands up and stays on the cart. Oh, hey, good, there's enough. A little bit of flaws, but that's okay. Oh my god, they sewed it and then they printed it. They printed it over top of the sewing line. Wow, you can see there's no printing on this side of the fabric. So they just sewed it together, thinking somebody wouldn't notice, and then just slapped a print over top. And here I thought buying online from certain companies when they cut the fabric and tell you it's supposed to be one contiguous piece was bad. Ugh, that's worse. I'm gonna fudge my half an inch here. Just guesstimate.
I would like to take a pause for a moment. I would like to make note that I am currently the sole producer, editor, and actor and writer for this channel. Please also note that producing content for this channel costs money. Music, equipment, materials, and software, it all adds up. So any donation to this channel will go a long way. At the time of recording this, please also note that I am currently in school for several college courses, so your donation will also help to keep this channel going. Donations to this channel will go towards school, music, fabric supplies, patterns, books, drafting paper, notions, and equipment for both recording and for more crafting tutorials such as this video that you're watching right now. To donate to my channel or to help me create more content, please visit my Ko-Fi or Ko-fi page at the link in the description box below or use the QR code here on the screen. If you enjoy my tutorials, please consider donating. It would be very generous of you if you can. If you are unable to donate and you like this video, please take the time to like and subscribe to boost visibility for the algorithm. Thank you once again, and now back to our tutorial. Now that the bag pieces for both the interlining and the outer shell have been cut, it's time to waterproof it all. To do this, I'm using some beeswax, and this I had bought at a craft fair many years ago. They come in these cute little bee shapes. I had used a double boiler method on my stove to melt the wax, and then I used this craft sponge to sponge it all on. Then I took a parchment paper and my iron and tried to smoosh all the wax into the weave of the cloth to make a waterproof and environmentally friendly seal. On some layers, it was a little bit too much of the wax buildup, so to make it stretch a little bit more, I had layered the previously waxed pieces onto unwaxed spots and on the other pieces of fabric. And then again with my iron, I had to sort of smoosh and evenly melt out the excess into the other pieces. I really hope this makes sense. And now all that's done, let's get sewing it all together. I had forgotten to record what I had planned for the zipper. In order to stabilize it and to give it a little bit of added strength, what I had done is I had essentially just used a little bit of fabric glue along with what is known as mulling tape in millinery. Mulling tape is essentially a single fold bias tape made with a thin-ish muslin, and this is essentially to tack down and hide any millinery wire in hats. But in this case, I'm using it to reinforce the zipper. After I had the majority of the bag sewn, I had gone ahead with some double fold bias tape and secured all of the inside raw edges for a little bit of extra strength and to make sure that it doesn't fray. Keep in mind, this section started getting a little bit on the bulky side, and certain parts I had broken several needles. So if you're going to do this method of beeswaxing your fabric, make sure that you take your time and go slowly, and be sure to wear an extra little bit of eye protection to protect your face and your eyes from while you're sewing, to prevent any needles from breaking and causing any accidents, because safety is important. At this section where it really started getting thick, it's where all the layers of the entire bag all meet, which is where the casing for the drawstring goes, where the flap for the top portion of the bag goes, and for the supportive strap. So what I had done is, after breaking several needles, including both leather and denim needles, I kind of gave up and resorted to hand stitching the rest of it down. So again, make sure that if you are using multiple layers of fabric, that you really protect your eyes, because you do not want any broken needle getting into your eye. So I'm going to muscle through and stitch everything down by hand into place to make sure it's really secure.